Class is dismissed, boys and girls.
You're in. The zone!
Previously on the YTV Retrospective.
But the cat came back the very next day. The cat came back. They thought he was a goner, but the cat came back. He just wouldn't stay away.
Check this out. Everybody. Check it out.
Too little, too late. A line that is synonymous with poor decisions and poor timing that could lead to missing out on something potentially in its prime, or just the wrong idea. Now, why do I bring this up when discussing a show of such a high prestige? Well, let's ask another question. When you think of early YTV, what is the first thing that comes to mind? The After School Zone? Camp Caribou? Classic era Doctor Who? You Can't Do That on Television?
Wait, YTV aired You Can't Do That on Television?
Okay, how about early Nickelodeon? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Double Dare? Danger Mouse? How about You Can't Do That on Television?
Yes, that show is great.
Aha! You starting to see the picture here? Today's show is You Can't Do That on Television. And boy howdy does it have some history. You Can't Do That on Television is a live-action sitcom that is hosted by a rotating cast of kids and 2 adults, played by Leslie and Abby Haggard. It takes place at many different locations, like a bad restaurant, Barth's Burgers.
Working for Mr. Barth is sure one way to keep fit.
What do you mean?
You want him to stop running.
Stilts, run in here and clean the maggots out of this hamburger mix.
It's made with human remains from the crematorium next door.
An arcade.
Of age and over.
Yeah? So what?
So I want my money back. I can't play this.
Oh yeah, you can play all you want. The game isn't restricted, just the pictures. You can play it, but you can't see it. No refunds.
A firing squad where the kids try to escape an execution.
You are being shot for accepting a dare.
What's so wrong with that?
Oh, no, you must never, ever accept a dare. That is the most foolish thing you could possibly do. And that's why we're going to shoot you so you can't do it again. All right. Ready, aim.
Well, hold it.
What?
Well, don't I get a last request?
Oh, not again. Do we have... Oh, all right. What is your last request?
I dare you to shoot me.
That is one sneaky kid.
A dungeon where a kid tries to con the dungeon owner out of setting him free.
Stan, don't you have a complaint?
Yeah, how come I didn't get any water with my bread? I thought I was supposed to get bread and water like all the other prisoners.
Au contraire, Contreras. The dungeon rules state clearly we cannot serve anyone under 19 a drink. You are obviously not 19, and water is a drink.
And a home with an alcoholic politician father and naive mother.
You reached out to the masses and openly discussed such sensitive issues like unemployment, alcohol, and sex.
Sort of, Alistair. What he actually did was he went to the shopping mall, met his unemployed buddies, had a beer, and they all made sexist remarks about the waitresses.
Now, the interesting thing about each episode was that it centered around a theme that would be in everyday life, like bullying, priorities, and smoking, the latter of which Leslie did all the smoking in the episode. And immediately regrets it.
I want to make a commendation and give a special medal for bravery to Leslie, who plays all the adults on the show, and who this week made a supreme sacrifice, all in the cause of art, by smoking all those cigarettes, because Les doesn't smoke cigarettes. Les, if you can speak, what do you have to say?
Sorry. Actually, I thought it was rather gross. I can't believe that people actually pay to smoke cigarettes, and I will never do it again.
The series was created by Roger Price, and it went through an interesting process. Originally starting in the UK on Thames Television as 3 different shows, or in our case, drafts. And funny enough, there was a draft after the main show's premiere on PBS. Each one slowly but surely brought the whole thing together. But Roger was getting tired of trying this idea in the UK, and decided to bring the idea to Canada in 1979, and was picked up by local CTV affiliate CJOH in Ottawa, Ontario. A Season 0, if you will. This series was an hour-long Saturday morning program, and this would be where many of the cast members were brought on. Main host Christine McGlade, Lisa Ruddy, Jonathan Gibbert, Kevin Sommers, Les Lai, Abby Haggard, and many more. The key difference was that they provided a look at local events around Ottawa. One thing that was a constant from both the drafts and the Season 0 would be bringing on local music talent. A year later, it would air nationally on CTV under the title Whatever Turns You On. The show was condensed from an hour-long episode to half-hour. They would bring on larger Canadian talent like Trooper and Max Webster. The local stuff would be pushed to its own show called Something Else. However, in 1982, someone else saw the show and wanted to air it over the border. That was a small channel by the name of Nickelodeon. At that point in time, Nickelodeon was basically a cable alternative to PBS. Their first program was a puppet show in a similar vein to Sesame Street called Pinwheel, with many cast members from another children's television workshop series called The Electric Company. There were many shows that were more on the educational side of things, and not a lot of shows that were child-led up until that point in Nickelodeon's history. Canadian imports were also a part of the channel for a good decade, as well as before and since the show's premiere, with the likes of Adventures in Rainbow Country, Today's Special, Sharon Lois and Bram, and Fred Petter's Place. They looked to Roger Price and got a few shows from him aired on the channel. First is ITV's answer to Doctor Who with the Tomorrow People, and of course you can't do that on television. But in the latter's case, they would become production partners with the studio making the show, CJOH. The series premiered, and to everyone's surprise, it saw major success. It saw relatability with the audience, day-to-day scenarios being played out in outrageous fashion, but teaching something as well. It was one of the first major shows that would define the channel's brand identity. The notion that the content is made for kids and by kids. And of course a trademark feature that has been with Nickelodeon since. During these sketches, a few certain words would trigger something unique. When anyone says water,
was not to mention water. See what I mean?
water would be drenched on the person. When anyone said, "Give it to me," or "Let me have it," in the earlier seasons,
This has been a pie-in-the-face production.
it would be a pie in the face. But the most memorable would be when someone uttered the phrase, "I don't know."
Manners? Yeah. Well, what does it have to say about that green slime they're always dumping on us?
Oh. Aha! You almost caught me. You almost got me, but I'll look it up in the book. Okay. Okay, G. Okay, garbage, garbledy-gook, gag, green slime. I don't know.
Enter the green slime. Originally food leftovers at first, before becoming a fixture of green gelatin, oatmeal, and water to be less hazardous, this would be one of the more iconic aspects of the show that would become a staple of Nickelodeon to this very day. It was even one of their first branded products with green slime shampoo. This show was an interesting one. Good comedy that could teach you things about complicated subjects, and showed that your life is actually better than the characters on the show. But this did have a few controversies behind the scenes. It felt like a boys' club in some regards. There were many magazines lying around, mainly Playboy. Peoples were found going into the girls' change room, many jokes that would see wearing a skirt as a form of punishment and humility, many jokes towards the show's host focusing on body shaming, and reoccurring jokes that would have a boy stripped down to his underwear. That is beyond messed up and not cool. With that said, the show left a major impact for everyone watching and everyone involved. Now, considering the fact that this is a retrospective about YTV, where do they fit into all this? Well, the series was picked up day one, on September 1st, 1988. It was featured on YTV's first program, First Night, with John Candy getting drenched in water. And slimed.
And here's a show where the whole idea is you can't say the word water. Hey, I suppose that's somebody's idea of a joke, is it? Huh? Well, call me crazy, but I don't think that's very funny. If this is the comedy of the future, well, I don't know. I don't believe this. I don't believe this. I got slimed. I got slimed on this show. This is absolute. Okay. Okay, fine. We're gonna have a talk, all right? We're gonna have a little talk, but first, let's bring on the music. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Blue Rodeo.
Now, why did I say that spiel at the beginning of the episode of Too Little Too Late? Here's the thing. The series premiered on YTV in 1988, a year and a half before the series would end production in 1990. It had a decent rerun life lasting up to 6 years, so roughly around 1993, it was starting to get exposure up here on YTV, even though CJOH aired it locally since day one with no publicity, no promos. It was just a local program. To put it simply, YTV missed the show in its prime. Nickelodeon had the show in its prime as a part of what would become a juggernaut of a channel. It wouldn't see the major dollars until a few years later with Double Dare. But the more concepts it took from You Can't Do That on Television, the less it needed the show. YTV would find other ways to get that type of success. It would eventually, but I think from other shows and their own content. And also, I feel that the show was a product of its time. It worked well for the 80s, but it may not have worked well in the 90s, especially with YTV's changes going on at that point in time. An important part of a US channel, but made in obscurity in Canada, You Can't Do That on Television was pretty good sketch comedy for kids, and it will be remembered by many. When we come back, it's time to take a trip across the pond as we look at a few shows that were imported here during YTV's early years. Anybody up for some football?
Dear YTV Retrospective, I wish to complain about the lack of British content on your channel. I myself am an Englishman who lives in a tall building, and I would like to say that I am offended!
Next time on the YTV Retrospective.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go.
Check this out.